So then we link it.
Imperial Galaxy. He wants flares. They just didn't hire us here. You didn't, not even on board. We're gonna have them to do something to it. Yeah.
Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. This republic stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor McGuire,
Here.
Councilmembers Robinson,
Here.
Kirkpaul, here, Reddick, here.
All right, we'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Robinson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Krecklo. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Before we ask to approve the consent agenda, we have a few items to discuss. Let Kevin here start with item F, the St. Francis Dock.
You bet. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity. I thought it was just worthy of rather than having just passed through silently through the consent agenda, which those who do read our reports and do look at the agenda would read it. But we discussed this at our last work session, and it was discussed at length. There's going to be a dog park installed at the intersection where I forgot the streets. Yeah, excuse me, forgot the streets, but on the corner that's now overgrown with some trees and whatnot, and they've been mowing and taking care of it. And it's a very nice piece of property. We've took a lot of time and effort to get it cleaned up and to get it where it is. But at any rate, it came in as one of the top 5 requests of dog park. So it's going to be an area that's cordoned off for small dogs and large dogs. Right now, apparently, brought our attention to using the hockey rink in the off season for a dog running and whatnot. So there's a big dog population in town, and it's close to town. So I just wanted to commend people who brought it up and thought about it and put it into action. But it's a great venue, and it's going for the public good. It was like I said, it was one of the top 5 things that we needed, or what people were asking for, between some other higher end items that we still like to do, but just don't have the funds to send to do it. A splash pad and some other things, but pickleball and whatnot. But anyways, it's going to the better public good. It's a valuable piece of property that it took a while to acquire, and it's close to the existing park already, so it makes a lot of good sense. It's good, and plus it has great value for implementation. It's got a pretty low going in cost as far as what to do, some fencing and whatnot. It's going to be minimum maintenance after it's done. My only hope is that it's received well and utilized respectfully. You've asked for it, you're going to get it, take care of it, and it'll be one of the jewels to our park system. So that's all I really had.
Yeah. Anybody else with comment on that item? All right, we'll move on to item G. Councilmember Robbins.
I just want to send congratulations to Tom Kevin, the work that he does, again and again and again about recycling. I know there's, some towns that still don't even do it, even in other states that I visited, the small towns where it would be, a benefit. And again, I know some of the stuff that gets generated with recycling doesn't always get utilized, or there's some cast off items, but Tom's taking the time to get grant after grant and help St. Francis be a model for other cities. And it's, I think the grant was $22,000, and it's gonna improve the recycling areas and messaging at the public park again area. So, and it is getting utilized, and, I've never said I was a tree hugger, but I'm all for recycling. It can be repurposed and put back into the stream and save some of the other raw materials that we've been using as humans. It's a good thing. So congratulations, Tom, and anybody else who had helped him get that, where it had to be. So that's all.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments on that? Okay. And last but not least, item K, Councilmember Robbins.
Yeah, Kay, it prompted me to ask a question. That's Pioneer Days, is a lot of efforts in putting that this year. It's gonna be hopefully bigger and better than ever. But Chester's is asking for to have a street dance or a parking lot dance, or they're gonna set up a venue. That brought to mind, I'd like to direct towards the police chief. That night with so many activities going on, dances and bands and alcohol and stuff at different spots. I noticed in Chester's application, it says security if needed. Well, as we know, in the last couple of years, there's been some skullduggery from the outside coming in. If they see some celebrations or stuff going on, and and it can happen from within and go out, but I guess I want to direct the chief, do we have a plan of action? It's always better to be in front of it than behind it. Some for unforeseen things happen, and we have to respond. We have enough, et cetera, et cetera. Can we cover our bases there?
Yeah, I think we're pretty prepared for the weekend. We do spend several months before, working with our public works supplier and our city hall staff. Kind of analyzing, seeing what permits have come in, seeing what's gonna be going on, so, we weren't really expecting this one to pop up, although I hadn't seen it until today, but I think we'll have adequate staffing. They should be providing some level of security at this event themselves, so that'll have to be communicated to them, but all in all, we staff heavy this weekend, pretty much everybody will be on, so, we'll be ready, and hopefully, when the Lanes had theirs last year, it was pretty uneventful, we were pleased with that, the security staff did a great job, so we're kind of hoping for the same this year for both vendors.
Okay, and again, nothing's directed towards our townspeople. Again, the town looks forward to it. People have been very respectful, and it usually comes off without a hitch, not a problem. But the second part that you brought up, then does the application have to be amended at all, Kate, as far as is it security if needed? Now, should we amend that?
So, Councilmember Robinson, I actually reached out to Elise Chester, who is the owner. And she did confirm right before I came here that they will be providing security. I did let them know for our city code that we do, after speaking with chief, that we do need security there, and she said that they will provide it.
Okay, and does that also apply to tasting and doing the same type of music venue and alcohol, et cetera?
Yep, so they also will have the same setup that they had last year with the fencing, and security will be hired also for their event.
Okay, and not to go too far into it, but security wise, do you get a price of who their security is, and are they capable of doing their job?
Not necessarily who their security is, but we do have contacts, for management for both locations, so, and their cell phone numbers, so we're not shy about reaching out if we're seeing something that needs to be addressed, vice versa, so, again, we're not overly concerned, if it's anything like the Lanes, I'm not too worried, the Lanes have done a great job since opening and handling their patrons, and keeping us out of it, so that's what we're hoping for both venues, but we're gonna be, again, staffed heavily enough, we should have plenty of officers on, in case something does happen, so.
Fantastic. Again, I'm not painting any doom and gloom, just trying to be a prepared citizen, and I'm glad to hear that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So thank you very much. That's all I have here.
Anybody else have anything to comment? All right, with that, we'll entertain the approval of tonight's consent agenda. We have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Reddick, do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Sprecklo, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting open to the public. Do we have?
Wendell Gordon,
Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Pardon?
Name and address for the record, please.
Wendell Gordon, 23487 Cree Street. I just have three simple things. Number one is, how did the state get to pass that new flag without the public voting? Do you know anything about that? I've heard so many comments from people that hate this thing, and I'm one that I always feel that the public should be voted on something like this.
I don't disagree with you, however, all I can say is that I've read articles on it, but that's as far as my knowledge goes about it. That's above us at the state level.
So do I have to go to the state to find out more?
I would probably say yes.
All right, thank you. The other things that I want to address is the weapons. I think everybody has seen on TV this last week that a lot of the cities are been taking their weapons and selling them back to a gun dealership. And we've been finding out that the weapons have been found with illegal people from the west coast to the east coast. What do the city of St. Francis do with our weapons when they're due to expire, when we replace them?
You're talking about weapons that law enforcement carries?
Yes,
So we are actually in the middle of that right now, so typically with city council approval, if we're talking handguns, we'll give officers, licensed officers, the option to buy them. As long, or trade them into a licensed gun dealer where we're gonna buy the new firearm, so, one of those two options are pretty typical.
why do we have to trade them in? Why can't we give them to some place that's melting down, which I've seen on TV? Because you know yourself how many of these weapons are getting placed in illegal hands.
Yeah, I mean, we trust the gun dealers with their federal firearm licenses to make sure they know who they're selling them to. And then I guess the main reason we use trade them in is because we get a pretty nice discount off firearms.
Because some cities were getting 25,000 or better back, trading them in and then for new guns, weapons. I didn't call them guns. I don't know. Okay, thank you. The other one is, I was to City Hall the other day. What are we as the public to do with our grass clippings?
Good question.
You can actually bring them to, well, typically we accept them at the first recycling event. Otherwise, that's actually a good question.
Well, the lady at the City Hall gave me the address to call down, clear down to Hampton Boulevard.
Yeah,
But you stop to think,
which is true, yeah.
stop to think what it might cost to get them and then take them all the way down there, and then what? Isn't there some way that the city could set up a spot where everybody could drop their clippings, pay whatever per bag or whatever, and then the city take them down there and then, pay for them too?
Sure.
The only thing I can understand you run into, people be throwing other crap into the grasses too, but.
I can say right now that we're working on an actual compost situation
Okay.
with the MPCA and Anoka County. I'm working on it right now. I'm not ready to bring it forward yet, but that's something that's in the works.
Okay,
So, and then once that happens, then they can actually come to Public Works.
good. All right.
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Great question. All right, with that, we'll move on to. You ready for one special? All right, so we not bypass that, or we gotta proceed with that.
You just would move down to the old business and then if no one is here, we can move back up.
I didn't see him. All right, we'll move on, I guess, now the old business, item A, solar farm. We're gonna take long here. Solar farm zoning ordinance amendment, second reading, ordinance 329, amending the zoning code, to allow solar farms in the I2 district. Resolution 2024-18, authorizing, well, that's not. All right, ordinance first.
Yes, Mayor and Council, before you tonight is the second reading of the solar farm ordinance amendment. This is to allow them into our I2 zoning district, which is isolated to the west side of the city with basically two landowners that have a very similar use and property. As this is second reading, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Kevin?
No, sir, no, thank you.
Chris? Sarah,
No question.
I think I can stretch this out. I don't have any questions on this one either. I think it's pretty basic. We've been over it already. So with that will entertain a motion, to approve ordinance 329, amending the zoning code to allow solar farms in the I2 district. Second reading, we have a motion. Motion by Councilmember Crutchfield, we have a second.
I'll second this, Mayor.
Second by Councilmember Udvig, and it's an ordinance, so we'll move roll call.
Mayor Miller,
Aye.
Councilmember Scarpa. Aye. Ludwig. Aye. Robinson.
Motion carries. Now we'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2024-18, authorizing summary publication of ordinance 329. We have a motion. Motion by Councilmember Udvig, we have a second.
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Councilmember Robinson. In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item B, recreational motor vehicle ordinance amendment, second reading.
Yes, Mayor and Council, before you tonight is the second reading for the recreational vehicles to authorize golf carts to expand onto additional city streets. Again, this ordinance has been reviewed by legal, criminal, and civil, and along with the police chief and other cities as a comparison. So there was quite a bit of time that went into this to make sure we had it all. Being a second reading, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions, Kevin?
No, Mayor, no questions.
No.
Sarah? All right, any further concerns that you can see coming forward?
Like we discussed last time, the main concern is just being where they're not supposed to be, and, vehicular traffic, is always a concern when you have a smaller vehicle like this on the road, but hopefully, that, if everybody does what they're supposed to do, we should consider that. So we'll just have to, again, monitor it and see how it goes, make adjustments from there.
I think for me, the only concerns I have are similar to the chief there, and I did get a picture from a friend of mine, which I think I brought up last time, where there was apparently a bunch of 13-year-olds, where they looked like 13-year-olds driving a golf cart near Dollar General. And my biggest fear, I guess, was that if the parents aren't policing this as well, it's gonna ruin it for everybody, so please keep that in mind as the public. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve recreational motor vehicle ordinance amendment, second reading.
Make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Robinson, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember Frecklow, and it is a ordinance again, so I will vote.
Councilmembers Robinson.
Aye.
Ludwig. Aye. Cracco. Aye. Mayor Miller.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0, and we have the resolution 2024-19, authorizing summary publication of ordinance 330. We have a motion to approve resolution 2024-19.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Robinson, do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Udvig, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And, new business, I guess we're on, Pretty elongated explanation on what we'll be talking about.
Spell it out.
Mayor and council, well, staff is requesting a work session towards the end of June. I guess some of our biggest pieces of that work session will be the budget. And try to start to prepare for the 2025. Staff is already about a month into this budget, month and a half into this budget, so we would bring the first step we bring to you to get a little bit further direction. And then move to July if we needed a second one before the meeting in September, where we set another, so. With that, looking at June 24th or 25th. Does either of those dates work?
Anybody have any conflict on those days?
No.
I think we just write it.
25th or not? The 24th, so 24th works for everybody here?
You
Say 5:30 or 6, doesn't matter
It doesn't matter,
for staff.
for staff, I know Councilmember Bowers asked for 6 o'clock, but
Right. Does anybody have any conflict with 5:30 here?
no.
No. All right, I guess we should But, we just set it for 5:30 then.
Yeah,
And that'll be at, the city hall building in, community center.
correct. So Monday, June 24th at 5:30.
Quick question, I guess, as far as the budget, just because the truth of taxation seems to be one of our most popular meetings where we get involved and they're not happy with their taxes when they come in. What would be the best time? Obviously, any time is a good time for them to come talk to us about what they want to see. But I kind of wanted to take that time when we started talking about the budget, to get it out to the people too, to say, hey, come and give your feedback now, you know, before we get deeper and deeper into it. Is there, obviously any time from now until July would be the best, or it doesn't really matter?
So Mayor and Council, if they're going to provide individual comments on the budget, I would say June or July. Again, you know, you start working backwards from we need to set the levy. In September, you start working backwards to the work that's needed to create that. And so to hear from the public in June or July would be important to kind of set that foundation and allow staff time to answer questions that are created from those.
Okay.
However, when we talk about setting the levy, that doesn't, and Darcy can clarify also, but that doesn't include some of the special funds, for example. So what they see in November is kind of that first step from September, and that's what gets them worked up before December, is because it's actually on paper. However, all of those pieces together kind of build that as we go. So getting your input in June will be very important in regards to what pieces you want or where we want to land, so we can work backwards before we get to September.
So with that, the people that are watching, hopefully you're watching, you know, consider your concern, when it comes to tax time, which we all understand as well. You know, come give comments, whether it's to us, stop by City Hall, talk to staff, about your concerns over your tax dollars, you know. Those comments help us make better decisions to represent you better as well. Again, these tax dollars are attached to services provided, so understanding that just cutting taxes isn't necessarily always just an option to do so easily. We have to look at what department it affects. So that coming forward, you know, definitely come speak to us at the city, I would say. I just want to say that to the public, that hopefully anybody paying attention at this time, and hopefully they continue to pay attention to further stuff. Second meeting open to the public. Do you have anything further you'd like to discuss?
You'd be here all night.
Great. I guess we can move on to reports and we'll fire department monthly reports.
Mayor and Council, for your review this evening, excuse me, is fire department's monthly report for the month of April. As you'll note, we did see a little bit of a creep up in our response times from last year to this year. I think it's 46 seconds, but still well within our goal of under 10 minutes on the scene. And again, a little bit lesser of run volume for the month of April compared to the previous year at 65 for the year of 2024. Staffing remains stable. It'll seem like it's dropping just a little bit, but we've also fractionated staff out. So we have 2 stations that we're accounting for. One's obviously a little bit lighter on the staffing side, so you'll see that kind of dip a little bit here over the next few months. Our fire and EMS run distribution was pretty standard, 18 fire runs, 47 EMS runs on the month. Variance usage remained pretty stable as well, but we did flag 5 ambulance response times over 20 minutes for the month of April. So we continue to see that trend in an area that we're really not appreciative. And for code enforcement fire inspections, we did 10 initial inspections with 2 re-inspections for a total of 12 site visits on the month. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, Sarah?
I do not have any questions. Thank you for.
Thank you.
That I have in your building. For the some challenges that you guys do.
And we're getting closer every year.
Chris?
But I just really, thank you for all the work that you do. I know it's, thankless job at times. It's been
Looking for as usual, chief, any wrinkles yet to be ironed out from your new location for the equipment and whatnot, they kind of play it by ear and you take care of it now?
Yeah, I think we've had some minor issues that have come up just because it is a temporary facility. Thankfully, the largest of those issues we talked about 2 months ago, when we lost our heat for a short period of time. Thankfully, we had a mild winter this year compared to last year, so it didn't cause us any issues. Public Works has been an absolute treat to work with on any issues that we've had over there. So again, it's not ideal, it's a temporary facility, we're getting closer every day, but it has worked out as we expected.
Okay. Also, any, update on now that things going on swimmingly, this is now May, the contract up at the end of the year, I'll see going there that you can drop things you can discuss.
Sure, so I did attend their council meeting last week, and one of the topics for discussion was getting the job description finalized, and getting pushed out. I have had a meeting, 2 meetings now with the city administrator over there to really kind of narrow the bandwidth of what they're looking for. So I would be optimistic that they should have a job posting created and approved here in the next 30 days and ready for distribution. And we'll see what the process garners from there. But we are getting some traction.
So come September, which is really kind of, I know fail date, it's come September, if things aren't where you like them, what happens then with 3 months to go?
You know, I think it's gonna generate a lot of discussion. And I don't know what options are or are not on the table at this point. You know, the way that I'm looking at this, it's very likely going to be a 90-day process from the day that that posting goes live, so we get somebody on board. Then we're really gonna have to create a quicker timeline for that onboarding piece, which I don't necessarily like. But we will see where this process lands as we continue to gain traction. And we have been flexible through this process up to this point. And I think that that might be one of the options that we need to investigate further, depending on how this time shakes out. And I'm not in a position to make any guarantees one way or another.
And I'm not encouraging cutting the cord either, and I know you would never get a neighbor hanging. Are you prepared to take on another year if need be, and when you now have an assistant or assistant chief, so things will be a little, not easier, but manageable. Are you prepared to take on another year if need be, and, you know, when do you decide that, hey fellas, we can't wait any longer, and plus filling spaces, like you said, filling employment spots, no easy task.
Well, the answer I'll give you right now is ask me in 3 months, you know, have a better answer for you.
Okay.
But again, in all honesty, I do think, to your point, we don't ever want to leave a neighbor.
Sure.
Right, because at the end of the day, when we do have significant events, we rely on them just as much as they rely on us.
Yeah.
Right, so to have a functioning foundational partner to the west is important, right? And not just for the city of St. Francis, but the county.
All right.
So I think that that would require us to have some further discussions on what this potentially looks like if they have a false start, or if they have a candidate pool that's not acceptable, or if, right? There's a lot of contingencies that I could consider today. I just don't want to react until we really get that posting out, understand the timeline of the process, but they have my commitment that we continue to try and be as flexible as we can.
As long as they, and I know they would not treat us with fairness and respect, but you have a job to do and a department to run. And, you know, some of these things can be flipped on just as easy. You've been doing this for 4 years, you know how they work.
Yep.
They know how you work and what your expectations are, so.
Yep.
Just as long as everybody knows what the score is at the time, so.
Yeah, and I think that's how we got to where we're at today. Right? They had some opportunities, they had some false starts within that process. We weren't going to put them in a position where there would be an untoward consequence to people that really had nothing to do with them not having the ability to get the posting out. So
Sure.
I think some of those discussions may be a potential moving forward, but again, give me 90 days to see how this rolls out.
Right. I think if it comes to that, I'd go for another full year rather than a 6-month extension per se. I want a commitment from them that, you know, you never come in at 50%, you're going 100%. And to me, 12 months is 100%. It gives them more time to do it, and it's the right thing to do it. And they're not leaving their neighbor, or they're not leaving their community, you know, upended as well. So
Absolutely.
The Bethel side of thing, I attended a work session a month or so ago. For the Bethel side, everything looking so good there so far, and cooperation.
Everything continues to go, I would say better than expected through this
Great.
process. I know our consultant has started working on the one-on-one interviews with staff and elected officials. I'm meeting with him Wednesday. And we're also gonna do our one-on-one interview, but we're also gonna go through all the facilities and the equipment, so it'll be more of a robust examination with me on Wednesday. So I really hope that we're gonna get some high quality data really starting to flow in here in the latter part of this month, in June. But operationally, things are working again better than expected up to this point. And I'm encouraged that we continue to make great strides over there. I will be going to the Bethel Council meeting, their first meeting in June, to do a brief presentation for their council, so they understand where we started, where we're at, where we're going. So I think that'll be beneficial.
All right, very good, appreciate everything you do, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I don't have any questions either, Dave. I think, would like to show appreciation for you and everybody there at the fire station, both of them. What you've been dealing with has been a lot, since you've been on, so we do really appreciate that as our community, and I hope that the other communities also appreciate that as well.
Thank you very much.
Before we move forward, do you have an update?
Justin unfortunately thought the meeting started at 7. So he probably now is about 15 minutes out. I don't know.
Oh, we have reports, but that's not gonna take one either. I don't have an issue waiting, I guess. I don't know how we feel about wasting everybody's time, if we should move it later. Or what we have to do legally with the auditor or not either. I don't know if there's anything there.
So Darcy, are we adopting or approving the audit?
So you by motion accept the audits when it's done.
And he is on his way.
He's on his way, probably like I said, about 15 minutes out, and I know they are really busy to presenting audits before the, your 6 months, which is the end of June.
Okay.
So unfortunately, he didn't reconfirm the time, and he didn't remember that he started.
And I think if you did, council reports.
No,
I'll give him a call back.
alright, councilmember report, services.
I attended the work session on the 13th.
That's. Russell?
Ended the work session on whatever day that was. They have dog parks, so fabulous. That's it. So we are waiting for you.
Alright.
Come on, Kevin, we're coming on you.
A lot of folks here. I attended the work session also, which we did spend quite a bit of time, dog park discussion, what to do with other properties in the city, and Kate gave us a very extensive update on what's going on with Bremer Grin, which is nothing at the moment, but things are in motion. There's going to be a sheriff's sale here in the future. Again, it has some possibilities to be something, we just don't know what and when, but it's not like the city's ignoring it, and it is an eyesore and should become, it should become something that is better than it is now, which is an eyesore. But Mr. Perry will be we're attending Kate, what was the date of Mr. Perry, a tentative date perhaps?
Tentative date for mobilization is June 10th.
June 10th, that's the big news there. Again, that's a senior housing project, or not senior housing, but transitional care with 125 units in there. So that's something really big for the city. That's like a $35+ million project that you guys have been working on for a long time, and these are credible people with other operations around the state and the Midwest, a nonprofit, and they said they're going to be very community involved as well. I know they're part of the Chamber of Commerce already, and they're also talking about doing some stuff for Pioneer Days, and so you'll see that they'll have a major presence here in town. So other than that, attended planning and zoning meeting, which lasted about 19 minutes. And met some of the new inductees there that are on the commission, and that's about all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, my turn to try to stretch this out. Well, I was at the work session as well. With the parks too, we talked about a lot of possibilities coming forward. A lot of the poll that the residents did take, we did talk about, things that you want and things that we can afford. Obviously, it takes some time to get to everything. Some things are more realistic and more doable, which is one of the reasons we had on the dog park. What we heard from staff too is up until this point with the hockey rink being used kind of temporarily, that residents have done a good job of respecting that space and doing a great job, which is awesome to hear. Obviously, it only takes a few to ruin it for the many. So really looking forward to having that come to fruition, something that we've heard over several years now about residents wanting a dog park. I am excited about that. Other things too, I feel the call from a resident, or email, I think it was actually, about the pickleball courts, which is obviously a huge thing now. I missed that bus, unfortunately, but, I'd like to learn it maybe and get involved too. It seems like people of all ages can enjoy that too, so. I know I played racquetball, but, that's a different story too. I'm looking forward to Pioneer Days coming up, May 31st to June 2nd. Are the buttons still for sale? We're still selling those at City Hall, so I know I bought one at City Hall for $5. Hoping to get all the grandkids, enjoy those festivities. I'd like to thank fire and law enforcement for everything you guys are doing coming up, as well as our neighborhood agencies that usually help out as well during that time. Other than that, I got nothing else. So I don't know what else, but we can open up a free for all anybody wants to share anything want to share with the public here at this time. Always wait for Justin.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Can I ask a question? I know it's a pretty deep subject yet and not a lot it has to loose end, but Highway 47, as far as any grant applications. Pete Sauber had some stuff cooking out there, one of our representatives, and can you give us any update? I know the public thinks that we've laid down totally on the project, but again, not to blame COVID, but COVID caused a big gap in what was to be done and the personalities involved that were on our side as things were moving forward. Can you give us a brief update on what's cooking there?
Yep, Mayor and Council, so actually today has been busy with the highway pieces. We have learned today that we have received a $7 million federal grant for the new construction.
Wow.
Additionally, our appropriations at the federal level for the $4.5 million for the water and sewer is moving to the list for consideration. It is a competitive list, of course, nationally, but we have both Representative Smith and Klobuchar that are pushing it through, working on it. So we should hear from that, I would say, within the next 6 to 8 weeks as well. So pieces are coming together. This is very early. I am literally unpacking some of this today. So you'll see more of that as we go, but this is our first set of good news that we actually.
And can you repeat that first part again? How many million you said?
So we have $7 million federal grant. So, and that was through the work with WSB. This was an application that we submitted last December.
Wow.
In addition, we also received both of our HSIP grants that we had applied for, but you have to select one program or the other. And we would have only gotten just about 3.5 million from HSIP, so I took this.
Very nice, very nice. Very good unexpected news.
So hopefully we can pull all of the pieces together. There's still quite a gap between what is needed and what we have, between state and federal funds so far. But now we go back to the table with the state and see if there's a possibility for filling some of those gaps with them.
Is there any missing pieces or pending pieces that we need to be in some of our budget talk over the next couple months as well? I mean, as far as our city contribution, are we looking at, I know we like, raising, and not saying we're raising anything or doing anything, but there's stuff that's happening, and we're gonna have to come up and meet those needs. If we have money, we're gonna have to match some of that money, and nobody ever expected it would be for free or what's gotta be done. Nothing's free anyway.
Correct, Mayor and Council, we do know with the $6 million underground project, the water and sewer, that about 1.5 of that would be ours, with the 4.5 hopefully coming from the feds.
Yeah.
So we know that is on our plate as far as a community. As far as the highway pieces, there is a local cost share, but because this has been such a moving target with grants and funding, I just don't even have a base of where to point that arrow quite yet. We know we're gonna have a responsibility, based on the agreements with the state, we were responsible for the intersections and the landscaping. However, now that we've received funding for the intersections, that takes a huge, piece back off of our
That's
plate.
awesome.
So we'll have to keep working with the state to fill those gaps to see if there's other funds that potentially could even fill some of our gaps that we need for match. Because this is definitely gonna be all pieced together. The other part is Anoka County also applied for an HSIP grant for one of the other intersections. And I'm unsure if we still get that money with the grant we got. So I don't have all those answers based on what Anoka County's applied for as well. So,
Sure.
the highway itself has a lot of moving pieces still, so we'll be unpackaging that. I don't think that's what
And with the session now come to a close on the Minnesota government side, for next year, did you have any towards the end of this session, or there's one representative that wouldn't return calls or didn't give a toot about what we're doing here? Is there anything the public can do, or I guess we could raise that flag when, as the next one comes around in the fall, but other than vote, get out there and vote, come, get registered and vote, because especially when some of our reps again didn't respond back to anything, whether good, bad, or different, they didn't respond at all.
Yeah, so Mayor and Council, I do know that there's a gap in time where they open it up for state appropriations, and next year is another bonding year. So we'll want to make sure that we get a financial request in on that bonding appropriation as well for the state. However, boy, trying to predict next year's legislative session is like trying to predict what they got through in the last 24, 48 hours that we're gonna spend.
Nobody knows what they got, there's 1,400 pages and nobody got to read it.
Yeah, we're gonna be thinking a lot of that, so.
Marijuana.
So we do have other opportunities, and I think this, next 6 months, and I don't even know how much time is worth between now and election, but definitely that November, December will be the big push to see who we have, and then I know the state appropriations, I should be seeing something on that any day now for next year's budget, so we'll want to make sure we're requesting additional.
Well, we'll be giving some emails and phone number that says it gets closer again to November, so. Well, that was really great news, and we appreciate you sharing that with us, that's awesome, and it was just a coincidence that I asked about it, but.
I wasn't gonna release that one yet, but it was definitely good timing, so.
That's good.
We just
Thank
don't
you.
know all the pieces.
Sure, well, we're very proud of you, you did a lot of hard work to get there, so thank you so much.
Brings up to Citizens Academy, I assume wrapped up by now.
Yes,
How did that turn out?
very well, very good. Participation, good feedback as usual, so, yeah. I'll definitely be going next year.
That's awesome. It's pretty much the same time every year too, right? Mid-April.
I think just the change this year, it changed from Tuesday. Yeah, same April.
But I would encourage anybody too that hasn't attended that, keep an eye out for that, early April next year. To me, it was definitely enlightening. I will give you permission to, I don't know if you already have, but to show the video of me getting tased if people are entertained by that. It was an interesting experience, but it was definitely worth it. Gives you a different perspective on law enforcement. Definitely helps you appreciate what they do, how fast things can change from just a routine stop to something dangerous. The interaction and the role playing aspect of it too is really cool. But again, it definitely opened up my eyes to a different view on policing and how it goes. So definitely worth it for the community, and I'm glad to hear it's going to continue. Anything else? Can you think of anything else? What else can we share?
So Mayor, the city has also launched their communication survey that was in the newsletter. It goes with me. Yeah. So in the back of the newsletter is the communication survey and it's on our website. So any encouragement on any of your social media pages to get people to complete that would be very helpful.
And again, on the last survey, we had, would you say 87 respondents out there, or was it one? Where was it, 118?
Yeah, it's over 100.
But the community our size, again, people don't get excited till it happens in their backyard. We're talking about stuff in your backyard now, so get excited and take the time to fill out the survey and let us know what your thoughts are. The opportunity is there.
Mayor Council, I pushed the survey, goes until August 15th, so we can get through a few weeks of the farmer's market, which begins on June 13th, I believe. And then we will also have a table at 19 to encourage people to complete the survey as well. So we wanted to capture both of those. Additionally, we are also going to put out a request for memorabilia and photos for the new City Hall fire station and for a time capsule. So I'm going to reach out to our last historian and do a public push to see if we can get some pieces submitted to the city that would qualify or be valuable for both our display at City Hall and time. Stahl is donating the time capsule to our project. So we'll fill that.
When is our next tour of our significant progress? Since we just had one too, there's a public notice. I'm not expecting it to be tomorrow or anything.
Mayor and Council, we don't have a second date scheduled. The sheet rock is in on the second. It is going in on the first floor. All of the rough-ins for electrical, plumbing, and mechanicals is in. So now we really start moving into more of the finishes. So if there's a point you want to go through July, you would probably see significant progress made. As of right now, if everything stays on schedule, we could be looking at a substantial completion by the end of October. So I would say July, and then your next stop would really be when it's completed. So.
Doors and windows were due soon.
Yep, so Mayor Council, doors and windows you should start seeing those going in any day now. And that will really change the exterior as well as the grading will continue in some of the just placemaking around the building.
As far as any fencing to the south, I drove by the retention pond. Will some of that fencing stay intact, or what are they thinking about that as far as safety or barriers or shrubbery?
Yep, so Mayor and Council, it will be a dry pond, so all of the fencing around the building will come down.
Okay.
But that should be a dry pond like you see in many of the neighborhoods, so.
Maybe cattails and weeds will take over and then it'll be more of a solid bottom.
Correct. And we do have some funds and a plan for some landscaping as more of a phase 2. So that is something we could complete. Even the spring of 25, we'll get the base established, and then that second phase of the plantings around that pond come a little later.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Have them.
And
Are you ready?
also I present Justin Wilson from the captain.
This is item A, special business.
In my 15 excruciating minutes on my way here, as I got talking about, I was thinking of something smart to say. I don't have anything. I guess I apologize for taking everybody's time. And I appreciate you waiting and look forward to giving you the presentation. I do like to just say a quick thank you to Darcy and all the staff for their help as part of the audit process. Couldn't do it without them, and to you all as the council for having us as your audit firm. So I will get into it here and go over just a brief intro of my presentation. Again, I won't go over the audit results, why the city needs an audit, why you're hired, and any findings. I'll also go over the other governmental fund results, enterprise funds, and I'll close with some key performance indicators comparing the city to others under 10,000 in population in the county. So again, audit results. So the city is required to get an opinion on their financial statements and related internal controls for the 2023 year. So we did issue a clean unmodified audit opinion, which is the opinion that the city is looking for. So we arrived at that opinion by testing a number of different things around paying the bills, employees, utility billing transactions, property taxes, as well as what the council gets to make decisions. We do have one internal control related finding that is not new to the city, but we'll go on the next slide. But first, I will just explain, we also, as part of our audit, are required to test Minnesota statutes and compliance. The Office of the State Auditor has put guides on the website that we are required to test as part of our audit. A couple examples of those items would be timely payment of claims and lack of conflicts of interest in the city or the council. No issues related to the legal compliance for 2023. So again, the 2023 finding, again, consistent to prior years, is limited segregation of duties, which is, again, internal control related finding. I guess the main thing to point out here is, although we recognize there are some compensating controls around a number of different transactions, control does exist, likely with the size of the city, with the finance director, just all the things that position has control over. So again, just something to point out, this is a common finding for smaller cities, cities with smaller staff. All right, so the next we'll get into some of the results. Again, we do show our first chart is the general fund compared to budget. Again, we do show the actual fund balance, the city's budget, which is offset by 1 year correctly, just to compare the fund balance at the end of the year to the future budget, as well as the city's fund balance policy noted there as a line of 45%. So again, I think overall pretty positive results here. Again, actual fund balance, above that line, kind of in 65 to 75% range, which I think is really positive. Again, I think nothing too much else to significantly point out there. Again, budget probably similar to everybody's line, continues to go up at a slow pace there. So focusing just on 2023, again, looking at the left-hand column here and comparing to the budget, that was the actual, again, on the right, we would see the variance. So again, the city did, show a balanced budget, or just budgeting for a net increase of 0 in the general fund. Again, the actual results for a positive increase of about 280,000. Some of the main drivers of that were really related to some of the revenues, again, some of the grant related revenue and investment arrangements, other reasons for the increase, the above variance there in the revenues. And again, as we'll see on some future slides, some of the expenditures, again, just a little bit over the budget, largely related to some of the public safety related expenditures. I think we can see it a little better here too. Again, if we look at that right hand chart, looking at the expenses on the left is the revenues, but looking at that public safety line, again, a little bit increase there, causing some of those overages. And again, as I mentioned, the other and the intergovernmental on the left there would be the intergovernmental would be the grants, and on the right, other would be investment. Some of the other funds the city does have, we're going to now, again, we start with the special revenue funds as well as the EDA and the component unit. Again, nothing too significant, not a ton of activity in either of these related places, but again, I think the thing to point out here is that the resources are restricted for future use in these funds. What's happening with that black bar, that does not look accurate. I think that black bar should probably be higher. Again, I'll point out, I think that bottom chart is incorrect. I guess the top chart is correct. Those numbers do look solid. I don't think the restricted fund balance numbers there reflect that, but all the fund balance is restricted in the EDA and the post-forfeiture fund. All right, so the next is these capital project funds. Again, I think there's just the 5 of them, which I think is good. Obviously, the city does have a big project going on, which like y'all were discussing as I finally made my way in. But again, the fund balance in the capital projects did increase quite significantly, again, to be expected as the timing of that project and when the bonds were issued. Again, that is the big reason for that restricted bar there. Obviously, those resources that were obtained from that bond are to be used for that building. I think the only other thing to point out here is the majority of the resources, again, with that outlier, are assigned to the city's building capital reserves, which I think is a positive thing in those other funds. The last one before we get into the enterprise funds is we look at the debt service funds. Again, this is just governmental, non-enterprise related debt. So there's down to 3 of them now, again, one of those on the screen was paid off in the 2023 audit year. So again, I think good news, the city is paying down its debt, it did take on a big $13 million debt there as well. We'll see that in some other ratios too, but we do just provide this as more of informational when those future expenditures payments are going to be over the next 10 years, when the states of maturity are. All right, so the next is our enterprise funds. Again, I'll just explain these charts really quickly. Again, the top chart is a cash flow from operations chart, which does not include capital. Again, we show the operating receipts in comparison to the operating disbursements and net payments. And the second chart there is just the overall cash balance. We do show kind of a minimum target, which would be the following year's debt service, 50% of operating. And we feel that's just a good low watermark for enterprise when we get to pay its bills in the future. Again, in this one, we do see the water fund kind of pretty consistent over the past 4 years. Those receipts are, you know, again, pretty consistent to those expenditures. I think, as we've seen over the past 4 years, the cash balance is relatively consistent as well. I think over the minimum. So yeah, I think just continuing to monitor those rates and compare it to a capital improvement plan should any purchases in the future will be better recommendation there. Next would be the sewer. I think this one really is kind of a similar story. You know, those revenues are kind of just keeping up with those expenditures. And I think we see, you know, a little bit of a drop in the overall sewer. But again, I think the dollar wasn't very too significant. Again, the balance is above that minimum. Similarly, just knowing what's to come in the future for maintenance and the capital related needs. All right, the last one would be the stormwater fund. Again, this one is a little bit less activity, but again, I think overall the receipts good enough to cover those costs. I apologize, I do not know what the expenditure and why the expenditures jumped. Do you?
Yeah, we paid for what project, Delaware. Yes, so we had an extra project.
Okay.
And we got some grant funds.
Got it. Yeah, so that is again, the reason for the jump there. I think probably likely to go back to normal levels in the future, again, overall cash balance, even with that, likely due to the grants, has remained pretty strong above that line. All right, so the last enterprise fund would be the liquor fund, and this one is going to be small for this, but again, I think overall the fund over the last 3 years has remained pretty consistent, kind of in that 24 to 25% gross profit. So I'm looking kind of at that third one, and I think that's a good one to look at. Again, operating income would be the fifth line there. It's also another one to look at. I think on the way right hand side, we also put in the 2022 statewide averages for liquor stores. Again, I think that just gives something good to compare to. Every city and every liquor store has their own story. So again, just something to compare to. Overall good consistency. As we do look to that bottom line, the fund does have close to $1 million in cash and has the past 3 years overall. And we'll go to this chart, but again, this is more graphic of the same information with no comparisons. All right, so the last, I talked a lot about fund balances. Again, I think sometimes it's nice to just close with what's in the bank. What do we have for cash? Again, we do see here with the bonds and kind of some of the timing, the overall cash balance did increase quite significantly. Again, the majority of those resources are going to be used or already have a big construction project going on. But again, I think overall, if we do just go back to the couple prior years, again, I think things remain pretty steady in that $14 to $15 million range. And I think a good mix of cash within some of the capital, general and enterprise related funds. All right, lastly, I'll go into the key performance indicators. Again, we compare the class 4 cities, which is under 10,000 population, as well as cities in Anoka County. Again, we're going to see ratios for indicators for taxes, debt, and then there's an expenditure as the third. So again, the first one we do look at here, again, the tax rate. Again, I think the positive news here, I think the city's overall tax rate has gone down, which I think is what a lot of cities will be looking for. Again, in comparison, probably a little bit closer to others in Anoka County, and definitely under those class 4. Taxes per capita, again, a totally different ratio. Again, this really is just overall taxes divided by number of residents. So again, mix of business versus residential would play a pretty big part in this ratio. again, as we see here, taxes per capita does continue to go up, I think. Not being able to see exactly, I think it's pretty well in line with those fourth class cities, so I think overall nothing too significant to the point there. Next one would be the debt related indicators, again, as we can see here, a little bit of a jump there with the $13 million that were issued. In 2023, so again, from a comparison standpoint, a little on the higher side, but that is unexpected. Again, that one is just total debt divided by number of residents, so similar to taxes, it will be somewhat offset with residential versus commercial. And the second chart there again is the debt service expenditures as a percentage of total. Again, I'll just point out this is non-enterprise related activities, so I think overall here the city does compare pretty favorably, and that number probably will go up a little in the future. Those debt related expenditures get paid off. All right, and the last one is again, we do current expenditures on a per capita as well as capital expenditures per capita. So this one, I'm kind of looking at overall operations. How does that compare to others on a residential per capita basis? So again, I think this one looks really good for the city of St. Francis. Again, on the low side in comparison to those of Northern County and certainly others in class 4 cities. And capital, again, we do just provide this one more information. That one is just fluctuates with other cities as well as issues. So yeah. With that, I've reached the end, and I appreciate everybody sticking around for my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Jessica. Sarah, do you have any questions? Yep.
I don't have any questions, Mayor, thank you.
I don't have any questions either. Thank you for getting here. I will say, I believe you've done a really good job for us over the years since we picked you guys up, so we do appreciate that. As well as Harrison, so keeping these reports good, so I appreciate all that, and I appreciate your time. So with that, I will entertain a motion to accept it. Motion by Councilman Radvik, do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Crackwell, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. He does.
Thank you.
May I just say, thank you to Justin, as doing a very easy work.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you again. With that, I guess we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Do you have a motion?
I get motion, Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Robbins, do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Crackwell, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, we adjourned at 7:09.